Hello and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm David Pollard. Today we're looking at US healthcare stocks and my guest is Satya Pradyuman, Director of Research at Cirrus Research. Seen by most investors as a sure bet during market downturns, healthcare has generally outperformed the S&P 500 index in tough times, only to find itself in tougher times itself as growth stocks come surging back into favour. The sector is down around 3% year to date. That compares to a rise of around 18 to 19% for the broader index. And it's a complex sector to navigate with 5 key and in many ways distinct areas of activity, but where the active investor can find, it's argued, deep pockets of value. So where are those pockets of value? Well, Satya Pradyuman, Director of Research at Cirrus Research, joins me now. Satya, welcome. I know that you see a massive valuation gap opening up between large cap healthcare and in particular mega cap tech stocks. Tell us more about that.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I think we have had a very, very strong market this year in the U.S. And if you dig a little deeper underneath those numbers, a lot of those gains have been driven by a very select few stocks that specifically in the tech sector. You've got the larger tech names that are now selling at about 120% premium to the market. When you look at the larger pharmaceutical healthcare names, they're selling at a 20% discount. This is looking at data going back decades. So we've got this pretty amazing value gap. What's important to understand is that for growth investors, and clearly there's value investors that are interested in healthcare as well, but the growth benchmarks, this creates a real opportunity because if you begin to see some sort of a slowdown in CapEx in the tech consumption area, by definition, they will be forced to focus back to healthcare. So we think the timing is really good here.
Now, a lot of the fortunes of healthcare have pivoted around COVID and the aftermath of the pandemic. How do you see the subsectors within healthcare going forward? What sort of demand outlook is there?
It's a very uneven moment, speaking about the post-pandemic effects, as we're all learning. I think if you look to the healthcare area, one of the segments that we've seen is this idea of focusing on procedures, because there was this pent-up demand over the course of the pandemic that allows for some benefits to feed into this marketplace. So in short, we see an increasing demand in procedures. And that is something that will definitely support the healthcare area and potentially specifically in the device areas as well. And a few names that strike within the medical device area, Stryker, Boston Scientific, Intuitive Systems. These are all firms that rank very well in our quality growth model. Stryker, in fact, also carries a dividend to boot. So we think that the forecast for growth for this industry, and in fact, healthcare in general, we've begun to see the earnings forecast begin to rise again. And we think this is especially good in a world where the profit cycle is still decelerating.
Looking at the regulatory backdrop, we had a story just this week that J&J has become the latest drug maker to challenge the government over its plans to cap drug prices. How much of a threat is the regulatory backdrop to the sector?
I think it's always going to be a threat to the sector. To some degree, the service providers may be the ones that are especially squeezed. And that also tends to be a cyclical factor. That said, if you look at the overall discounting, I think by definition for over a decade now, the markets have really priced in the regulatory risk. I think that's a constant. I'm not sure it changes. It ebbs and flows, but I'm not sure it's changing radically.
And in one or two sentences, what would be your top tips for investors going into this space?
Well, I think these are technology companies, right? And so it belongs as a risk asset, and it belongs in the long-term portfolio. I actually think it's a wonderful inflationary protection component because as you age, your spending on healthcare actually increases. So this is always should always be a component of your risk part of your portfolio.
Okay, Satya Pradyuman, Director of Research at Cirrus Research, many thanks for sharing your thoughts today. And that is your roundup of the US healthcare sector. I'm David Pollard, and this is Reuters.